G'day, I'm Murray. This is my backyard. That's me mucking around in the foreground. And today's the day I get a bore put down. It's equal parts exciting and scary because we don't know if they're going to find water. They have to get paid whether they find water or not. And then if we do find water, is there going to be much of it? How fast a flow rate are we going to get out of that bore? And what's the quality? The aquifer in this valley is very patchy. In some places it's extremely salty and completely useless. In other places it's usable but not great. Fingers crossed. What they're doing is getting set up. The water truck with the yellow tank on the back has just come down and hooked up a pipe to the drilling rig. They've levelled the drilling rig hydraulically. That was quite early on in this piece. And now they're doing some of the 1,000 odd little jobs they have to do to get ready to actually sink the bore. On the right here you can see some clear earth. I'm spending some time raking up stones on that and collecting them to get rid of them so that it's going to be mobile. It's quite a large area. It takes me a lot of time. If you see me coming and going, I'm keeping an eye on the job. I think here he's checking to make sure that the truck looks level, because obviously when they extend the boom, is it called a boom? Up above the truck, they don't want things to tip over. I actually asked them to put the bore about 2 meters closer to the tree, and they said no, they can't. Is it okay to put it here? Because they didn't want to hit the tree as the boom went up. And I said yes, sure, no worries, 2 meters shouldn't make a difference. I'd picked this spot because to the right of the truck is a creek coming down out of the hills, and on the left that you can't see from this angle there is a gully, you'll see it later, which is the main watercourse out of the valley. The head of the valley is off to the left. And this was a good spot to have a break in the alluvium. So here I've changed angles and got a bit closer, and down it goes. They're going in dry because of the possibility of shallow alluvial water. Because water's going to be getting pumped down into the bore and it's going to be pushed back out with spoil, etc., so that the water doesn't fall back down the same hole, they put a bucket with a bottom cut off it around the hole so that the hole is protected from being filled back in. They have to dig a trench to allow the water to escape, otherwise it would pool around the back of the truck. So they're putting in a trench which they will continue to maintain and improve as the day progresses. Then it's just a matter of adding 6 meter section after 6 meter section and drilling away, hoping that you're going to hit a water bearing layer at some stage. You could see the water's definitely started to flow now. I'm not sure what that foam was. It looked like some kind of detergent, perhaps? Make the drilling easier or to get through particularly tough rock? I don't know. But here comes the casing for the bore. These are 6 meter lengths of poly, and they're cutting, slotting in the casing with a hand-powered angle grinder. This is to allow water to come into the poly so that you can pump it out. They do about 9 meters, a whole segment of 6 meters plus a half of another. So there's going to be 9 meters of slotted casing in the bore. They'll continue to improve on the trench constantly, mainly because they need to get that muck flowing away and the water flowing away. They went down to about 28 meters, and now they're removing the bore drill from the hole segment by segment. It's a pretty smooth process. They hit a water-bearing layer at about 24 meters. So at the moment there's 4 meters of water-bearing aquifer that they're going to be putting the slotted casing into. This is where they start lowering the casing, starting with the slotted sections. Each section is glued inside and around the base, which is what they're doing now. Then they put 3 Tech screws in to hold the 2 pipes together. This is to keep it intact in the ground, and also in case you need to pull it back up. Remember, these are 5 meter segments and they've got 6 of them. So in theory there should be 2 meters of the last segment sticking out the ground when they're done, if they've got this down to 28 meters. What's happened is the top of it, because of all the water and our soil type coming out this hole, the top of the bore where they're drilling has fallen in, and gravel and sand and soil have filled up the bottom of the borehole, so they can't get it all the way in. So now they have to lift the pipe up and then clamp it off, then cut through the pipe with the angle grinder, then cut out the piece, undo the 3 screws, cut through the plastic that's still glued in there, it's about 8 inches, remove that, put the pipes back off to one side, then cut the next section, unscrew the next section, cut the next section, until they get it all back out. And now they've got to get a sleeve of some kind. They look at this plastic sleeve to see if it's going to do the job, which they want to put in the hole so that they can use it to stop more soil falling in. Unfortunately, that one was too small. They've got a couple of big heavy steel ones on the back of the truck, so they're going to have to move the truck around and use the crane to get one of these off the back of the truck and into the hole. They actually had a couple to choose from. Some measuring and some discussions. they had to get that poly off so that they could actually get to the steel sleeves. You know, it's just amazing the amount of different jobs this drilling rig can do. Generators, compressors, crane, although perhaps not the safest crane in the world for this angle. The piece of steel that they were going to use didn't actually have a hole cut in it, so they couldn't pick it up from this end. So they're now just using the grinder to make a connection point so they can attach to it. They found out shortly that it had been put on backwards. So obviously they always get put on the same way. So that was a C-clamp, or U-clamp, sorry. And they had to make a hole for it so that they could pick it up. And here they've switched back to the usual end. And now they've just got to make sure that it's nice and straight. Everything's going to work. Here they're packing spoil from the hole, gravel and soil, around the top of the pipe and down into it as tightly as they can to try and stop any further collapsing at the top of the bore here. The magpies had been grazing around the area and decided to come through for a bit of a supervise. Just in case someone had dug something up they could eat perhaps, or maybe just to make sure these guys weren't slacking, and they weren't. So all was good and the magpies seemed to approve. So here they're getting the drill set up again, and they don't really have to drill for most of the way down. They've got to get the bucket set up again. Magpie's back. They're getting the drill set up, and they don't have to drill because it's got about 20 meters that they can just go straight down before they have to start to drill. And when they get to the bit that's filled in, they have to start the water up. It's easy going for a while because they're just removing loose spoil from the hole. They've already drilled it. The good news for me is that this time they actually went down 2 extra meters to take it to the full 30, and they hit a diorite layer, and they went about 1.5 meters into that diorite layer. So that is the layer beneath the aquifer that effectively seals it and helps keep the water in the water-bearing layer. Once again, they get to remove the bore from the hole, and you know what's going to happen next. They're going to start to put the poly back down there. The last piece to come up is the drill head. The pulley has to be glued and screwed again. It's not uncommon for bore heads to collapse the way that this one did, so they were being optimistic when they tried to put it straight down initially, but they might have been able to get away without using the steel casing, etc. But you see this is going down nice and easily, and this is the last section. All the way to the ground. Now, they've lost a couple of inches here, because of cutting off a couple of 8-inch sections. So maybe it's not quite 30 meters, but oh, magpies are back. They're getting the a bit extra so that it sticks out of the ground and isn't at ankle height, because that would be a bit inconvenient. So they're adding a bit of old pipe from another job on top, cutting it off, and that's going to be the bore. It's not over yet though. Just in front of the camera there, you can see little piles of earth. Those were collected every, I think it's 3 meters, and placed there so that he'd have a record of what the drill was going through as it progressed downwards. They collect a couple of drums of water, or large buckets of water, pour it over some drums of gravel they've got, and then they start to fill buckets and dump the gravel down around the casing. They put a lot of gravel down this hole. This takes quite a while. Oh yeah, I just took the ute back to the house because I had to get some batteries that I'd taken up earlier to charge, because this was a long process and it took a lot of batteries. I had to take a couple up and charge them, and then when the 2 that I had remaining were running low, I had to go swap one out. And yeah, it's been a long day at this stage. Now it's time for the concreting. They mix up water from the back of the truck with sacks of pre-mixed concrete, and they start pouring it down on top of the gravel around the top of the well here, the top of the wellhead. I go looking for a better angle. And now comes the important bit. Because the pipe is hollow, they're going to use the pipe as a giant straw and pump water out of the well. They're going to be able to tell our flow rate. Magpie's back. Ooh, grab some food there. They're going to be able to tell what the flow rate is, and yeah, they're getting a little spot set up here to estimate the flow rate. It's cute backyard engineering. Water! At this stage, I'm very happy that we've found water. I don't know if it's going to be good for anything. But hey, step 1. The bore found water. And it's a flow rate of 1 to 2 litres a second. This is the packing up process. They've got to raise that steel sleeve, and they can't put it down on top of the poly because it will crush it, just because it's so heavy. So now they've got to retrieve that. It's full of concrete, and when they pull it out, the concrete will of course slump down a bit. But yeah, it's pretty impressive how they've ironed out all the wrinkles of how to drill a bore. So that's the sleeve going back. Don't crush the poly. Down it goes. Time to shut up shop. one more concrete, one more bag of concrete. Just around the top. Clean it up a bit. And get the vehicles ready to leave. Some action shots. These are the rocks that I collected during the course of the day. This is what it's all about. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. Have a good one.